All right, Patrick, as a sophisticated real estate investor, your first tool in your tool belt right here. Now, I'm not saying it's the number one tool. I'm just saying it's the first tool, like a tool, because these five are not like this is the best tool and that's the second best tool and this is the third best tool. These are just five phenomenal creative tactics and strategies to help people out of problems and help you as a real estate investor grow and scale your portfolio. One of the first tools we want to talk about is agreements for sale, Patrick. Very creative strategy. For most, I would say, not a known tactic to 98% of investors out there. Very, very advanced tactic, but what an amazing tactic. So just kind of start by defining what agreement for sale is, Patrick, and then we'll talk about where it could be used.
Well, an agreement for sale is a form of vendor financing, and this really works well for investors, particularly those investors who have hit a ceiling of limitation in terms of the mortgages they can get. Because when I talk about vendor financing, really what it is you're coming in to solve a problem for a vendor. That vendor has got transferred, they don't have equity in the home, yet they have to sell that property. There's been a death in the family, a divorce. Either way, they got to get from underneath the property. They've got an existing mortgage in place, and it doesn't make sense for them to sell. Now, an agreement for sale is the opportunity for an investor to come in, put the agreement together. And by the way, there's nuances and there's a level of sophistication to these agreements, but that's why you've got great lawyers. But the point is that what you're doing is you're taking over the principal, the interest, the taxes, the insurance. You're taking over responsibility entirely for that property from the vendor, but they maintain that mortgage. The mortgage remains in their name, as does the title. All of that is wrapped around, all of that has an agreement wrapped around it that is referred to as an agreement for sale. But then you take on all responsibility. The vendor can then move on to whatever the vendor wants to do, and you will hold that property for 1, 3, 5, even sometimes 10 years, where you don't have to go back to the bank to qualify for a mortgage, JG. And this is a very, very effective strategy for investors who take the time to understand how to use that tool.
First and foremost, Patrick, this tactic and strategy works across the country. Now, it's very popular in in Alberta, very popular in Alberta, very popular in Saskatchewan, not as popular in places like BC and Ontario, but it is doable in all provinces. And actually, when we were talking to Barry McGuire the other day, he was pointing out how back in the day, as in like pre-World War II and pre-Great Depression, this was the way to buy a property. Like this was one of the only ways to buy a property. And one of the main ways to buy property. And over time, we've gotten away from the tactic, but it's been around that long, Patrick. It's been around for 100 plus years, this tactic. It's not brand new. We didn't just create this. We have resurrected it probably about 2 decades ago, and it works incredibly well for the right investor at the right time.
Yeah, and just to your point, JG, is that as popular as it was in Western Canada, what's happening now is because the demand and really the challenges that many, many homeowners are facing is that it's opened up a whole new doorway for lawyers to support this. So in fact, what I'm saying is that in Ontario, where we're seeing a lot of these challenges because of just sheer volume of people that live in Ontario, is that lawyers are actually embracing the strategy and embracing agreements for sale. And so now more than ever, Ontario is open for business when it comes to agreements for sale. It's like a really, really great opportunity.
Now, where do you use an agreement for sale is a great question. And we, by the way, folks, if you're watching this, we always do a variety of webinars and working sessions for our community on this stuff. But just quickly to understand where to use an agreement for sales, you've heard of probably people being underwater on their mortgage. That means that they owe more on the property than the property's worth in the current market. Now, in today's market, Patrick, for some people that bought condos at the tip top, or they bought pre-construction condos at the tip top of the market last year, some people are in this position right now and they want to get out from underneath that stress. And an agreement for sale is a great way to do it without them having to liquidate everything and in fact pay the market to sell their condo. An agreement for sale could be one tactic to move that over to an investor and it helps both the person who owns the condo who's underwater and it helps the investor.
Well, it's something that we need to shine a light on is because somebody listening to this goes, well, why don't they just sell the property then if it's that bad? Well, the problem that they've got, to your point, it's underwater, so there's no equity in it. So they phone the realtor and say, I'd like to sell my property. The realtor looks at it and goes, okay, well, we have a problem here because there's not enough margin in here for me to get paid. And so as a realtor, my job is to get paid. I want to sell your property, but there's not enough in here. So if there's a $20,000 commission or 25 or 15 or whatever the number is, if they don't have that spread, that means the vendor is actually going to have to come up with that cash to pay the realtor. And of course, that is part of the problem, because the vendors typically that are going to go for this kind of a deal don't have the cash to pay the realtor.
Yeah, very advanced strategy, folks. So we urge you to, join the community, get involved with the Real Estate Investment Network so you can learn this kind of tactic, because very, very advanced and not for the faint of heart, but you got to know what you're doing. You have to be educated before you do this, but incredibly powerful tactic in this particular market condition.
Let me just comment on what you just finished there. And just to say this, is that it is a very advanced kind of strategy to use. But for investors who want to take it on and learn it, there's some great opportunity for profits in this. And so, like anything, if you want to make really big money, you have to actually educate yourself in order to set yourself up to win in these scenarios.
Agreements for sale covered. We did. Good shot. I like it. My aim is right on today. I love it.
If you're interested in learning about investing in real estate the right way, look at our Real Estate Investing in Canada program, 15 steps to successfully investing in real estate. Thousands of real estate investors have learned the right way to invest in real estate following those 15 steps. You're absolutely going to love that program. Take a look, click on the link in the description below.
I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Please like and subscribe. And if you've enjoyed this, please share it with someone that you know, because it's going to be incredibly valuable to them. Also, we'd love to hear from you, so please comment below. If you want to see more stuff like this, click here. If you want to see the entire show, click there.